Okay, so on the notes, remember we had this discussion yesterday. Please make sure you were supposed to, when we left off, you guys, I gave you these notes and I said to try to do this on your own, okay? Remember how this works, okay, is that when you're going and doing everything, sorry, I'm gonna mute this crap. When you're doing this, what I want you guys to do is make sure that as you're going through this, okay, that you understand distribute, and then in one shot, why I did it in two colors, X has to be on standard form, X has to be on the left, and all the numbers that are not X or Y related have to be on the what side? The right. Okay, so that's all you're doing when you're transcribing these over. Okay, it's just making sure that, and I'll raise it up for everybody, making sure that you guys do the distribution, and when we ask you to go to standard form, you take the X to that side and the number over to this side. Okay, does that make sense? All right, the reality is as you guys are doing this, that we want to make sure that if you start with this, that not only can you go to all the way to standard form, but in the middle here, you can actually go to slope intercept form. And that's what the last part of this lesson is about, okay? Is making sure that you guys can go from standard form to slope intercept form and then back, okay? So you go from point slope to slope intercept, which we'll talk about, and then you would end up in standard form, okay? This is standard. It's very important you know the A, the B, and the C as well. Yes?
When we're writing out the A, B, and the C, is B always going to be 1?
It is for right now, but it won't be in a bit, okay? The only reason is right now is because, is this actually easy to set up right now? If I asked you to graph this line, could you do it? But if you do one thing, could you graph it? Yeah, you would just take this and subtract 6x to this side, and then that's it. You have y equals, bam, negative 6x minus 12. No, the examples that we're going to cover in a second, they don't end in y, okay? It just so happens that all the examples that we're using right now have this as a y, it has a 2, or it has a 1. Now, however, the next examples, okay? So here's what we got, here's the coup de grace of this entire lesson, okay? Or the big, basically the big finale that I need to make sure you guys can do, and why I gave you so much space, is we're going to go from point slope form to slope intercept, and then finish in what? Standard form, okay? You can start with 1, and you can write all the other equations based on that form. Now, here's what I need you guys to understand in relation to that. If you can do this with confidence and with the ability of moving the things back and forth, you're golden. If you struggle at any part or any time during any of this, okay, that's when you have to actually hunker down and try to figure out, okay, what am I missing? What key component do I need to redo? How do I get from point A to point B to point C? Okay, and that's the honest truth with this. Okay, so we're going to start. We're starting with point slope form. That's the easiest one, where it's y minus, right? And then you guys would do the equal sign, leave yourself a space, and then it's x minus, right? And then we have this at the end. Okay. Remember, as you plug in the points, if I put a -5 in here, what does that do to this sign? Makes it what? Positive, right? So please know this would be +5. And then you put your slope in. And then this is -8. So when you drop a -8 in there, it would look like this, but you can't have a negative, so that actually makes it a positive, right? So there is your first form, point slope, easy. Okay? Now we're going to go to slope intercept. So first thing you have to do is get rid of the parentheses, use PEMDAS, right? So do the proper distribution on this. Okay, so this is going to be, this side isn't changed, it's y plus 5 equals, okay? If you distribute this in to both sides, this is going to be 5 over 2x. And then what is that number? 20. You guys know that, right? It's 8 times 5 is 40, divided by 2 plus 20. Okay, now, slope intercept form, is what? That is the y equals mx plus what? B. So what do we, the only thing we have to do this equation now is do what?
Subtract 5.
Subtract 5. And then, ladies and gentlemen, here is your y equals mx plus b. Simple. Here's slope intercept, right? So if you want to make a little note, please do. Okay, now, here's the next step. Now we got to go from slope intercept to what? Standard form. However, ladies and gentlemen, standard form cannot have a fraction. So how would I get rid of this fraction? What am I going to multiply the entire equation by to get rid of a fraction? Not that, only one number. Because I don't want to get rid of everything. Because if I go, if what you just said, if I go 2 over 5, am I putting a fraction over here? So what number can I multiply to get rid of the fraction? Just be number what?
2.5.
2. Because what is 5 divided by 2? Because that's the only fraction I got to get rid of, right? How do I get rid of that fraction? I put that 1 there, and then what has to go here? A 2. So these cancel out to become just a whole number, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, you have to take and multiply everything on this equation by 2. Okay? Multiply by whatever's in the denominator. All right? So, as you're going through this, you put a little 2 here if you want, like that. So you end up with 2y equals, and that would cancel out, that'd be 5x plus 30. All right, now, and what's the final step? It would be 2 minus 5x, right? Because it has to be ax plus by equals c. So, ladies and gentlemen, here is standard form. Negative 5x plus 2y equals what? 30. So to answer your question earlier, Jacob, A is what? Negative 5. B is?
2.
C is?
30.
That's it. Please make sure as you go through, by the way, this is how, as we go later on, okay? There's a lot of information that's in this column. But what it is your guys' ability to challenge you to use every piece of math technology and in your brain that you have learned so far to be able to manipulate and go from one equation to another to another. Okay? Now, the only thing, can I take this equation and go backwards to slope intercept? The answer is yes. Okay, technically, these two equations, you could go back and forth. Okay, because then I would add 5x back over here, divide everything by 2, and then you'd have y equals again. And it would end up being this number. And if I said, all right, take it to standard, you would do this again, go back and forth. Does that make sense? The only thing you can't interchange is once you leave point slope form, you really can't go back to it. But standard and slope intercept, you can go back and forth. Okay, that's the goal, is to be able to basically complete a circle, and you can keep going back and forth if you so chose to. Now, nobody is crazy enough to do that, but that is possible to do. All right, we'll do the next one. Okay, so it's y minus, and then it's a 2, so you just plug that in, equals 1/2, and then it is x minus, but that's a negative 10, so that has to be positive, so there's your first equation. You'll notice on here, all your slopes have a what at the bottom? 2. So we're going to be multiplying everything by 2 when we get to that step. However, on your guided, on the examples you have to do, the one in the middle has a slope of what? On the bottom, has a slope of 5 over
4.
So make sure when you get to the one on the bottom, you'll multiply by 4 to get rid of the fraction. Remember, that's the key. So right now, we don't want to get rid of the fraction because it's part of the slope. Okay, but eventually you will. So this is 1/2 x, And then 1/2 times 10 is 5. And then, ladies and gentlemen, you would do what? Add 2. And you get y equals 1/2 x plus 7. So there is one equation, right? So I got to make sure you guys understand that when we did single step equations, multi-step equations, everything we've been doing this year continues to lead up to stuff like this. This is why I need you to do this. Why I need you to be able to solve, not be afraid of fractions, to get rid of things. Now we're going to go standard form, but we got to get rid of this fraction, so we're going to multiply everything in here by 2. So this will be 2. So they'd be like distributing a 2 into here, 2 into there, a 2 into there. 2y equals, that would be x. Everybody understand how I got that, correct? Okay, shouldn't be difficult. I took a 2 and I multiplied it into here, there, and there. I'm making it ugly by writing all over it. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, now make it standard form, subtract x, and that's it. So it would be negative x plus 2y equals 14, and you're done. Now, here's my only thing with you guys. What is my a value? -1. Please make sure you know that. B is 2, C is 14, okay? I'll raise it up so you guys can see it above it, okay? Make sure you know that A is -1. Just because there's a negative X in front of it, remember, as we go through this year and get into the second semester, we'll be dealing with the values of A, B, and C more often. You guys will find those and plug those into a giant quadratic equation, which will basically, you will not enjoy, but I'm okay with that. All right, this one here, y minus, and then it's going to be a 9 equals -3/2, and then it's x minus 6. There's your first equation. Now do the distribution. Here is your slope. So that's part's done. That would be what? -3 times -6 is a positive 18. Divide that by 2 and you get what number? By the way, if you guys don't know how to do this, put that in a calculator if you want. Okay, you can go, especially the kind with a little fraction button, go -3, fraction button 2, and then put -6, hit enter. It'll give you the answer if you struggle with this, okay? Times the -6, excuse me. All right, so please make sure you guys, if you can't do this simple math, that you do use technology to help you out a little bit. Because I know some of you, I don't want this right here, this distribution in here, to be the reason you fail. All right, add 9. And now you have your slope intercept. You can all graph this line. And so now you would multiply everything by what number? 2 again. All right, and then you do the distribution in. So it would be 2 into there, 2 into that, and then finally 2 into that long number on the end. 2y equals -3x, and then that is plus 36. And then I'm not going to do the last step. You guys should know. How do you get from negative to that side? You add it. All right, here's what I want to make sure you understand. This equation, and this one. If I graph all 3 of these, if I graph this one, and this one, do they look alike? No. But if I put all 3 of these in decimals, it's the exact same line. They don't look alike, but they're the exact same line. That is your key. Okay, we will learn and talk more about decimals on Thursday next week when we do 4.6. I will show you this as a way to double check your work. Okay, in decimals, you can put this equation in here and it'll give you a line, but unless you guys can read the slope and the line, you're not going to get to this unless you figure out the math. And then standard form, you'll never get from here and looking at a line of an equation say, oh, I can do standard form. You can, but some of you can't. All right, I would prefer you guys could, from one line, you can give me all of these. You technically could, okay? So understand, if you were to double check your work and graph all three of those and one is off or looks different, then you've messed up your math somewhere along the way, okay? Does that make sense? All right, so ladies and gentlemen, right here, so 10:14, okay? So you have about 19 minutes left. What I want you guys to do is please work on these three. I will give you the answer in about 10 minutes, okay? When it's 5 after, and then that'll give us still an extra 9 minutes in here, okay? Work on it to make sure you can do the math, please. If you can do the math on these with relatively ease, then you should have no problem going forward with any of the calculations that I'm going to ask you to do, any of the different setups I'm going to ask you to do. It's very important that you get these things done. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen? All right, so what I want you guys to do is if you have any questions, please let me know, okay? What? All right, good, go. All right, work on it. Here, just in case some of you may struggle with this part, look up later and double check your work. Make sure the very last step, ladies and gentlemen, would be to tell me what the A, the B, and the C values are, because I can't stress enough how that's going to set you up for the future. You need to know them now. There are actually some questions on Alex that will ask you what is the A, the B, and the C value. It's more important, ladies and gentlemen, to go through that you guys can do the other things as well. I don't use the other calculator that's given you on your phone. What? Okay. Oh, it does? What calculator is that? Wait, it has a live machine in it? I'm trying to find how long is it? I can't believe the dollar is stronger than the euro. Yes, distribute first. So, yeah, so what you're doing is you're going to distribute that fraction first, okay? And then you'll include a slope intercept. So there's two, and you can subtract that. So we know that is. It's positive number.
This.
Yes.
And this was two.
You distribute that into here and that into there. Okay. Jordan, you got. Because you gotta understand, you're gonna miss a step if you do that. That makes sense? Because you gotta distribute. Right, so make sure, as you guys are going through this, distribute this into there and there, so that you guys know your next step is to just drop this down, and then you have negative 3 over 2x. And then if you need a calculator, remember it's negative 3 times negative 8. Now, I want to make sure we understand one thing. When we have talked about this in the past, okay, we have talked about how these numbers here, once your formula is created, this is truly, then you start doing the math. Okay, so we know this is a positive 8 that we put in here, but now that it's in this equation, now technically it needs to be a what? A negative 8. Okay, so just know it'd be negative 3 times negative 8. If you don't know what that is, put that into the calculator, and you would get what number? Positive. Negative 3 times negative 8 is positive 24. And then you divide 24 by 2 and you get 12. Okay. All right. So that would be where you're at. Right. And then what's my next step on this particular one? All right. Subtract 2 and then that's it. You're done. And now you have the y equals. Okay. See, this is where, and thank you for everybody participating. This is where I want to make sure you guys get it. Okay, it's about changing things up, moving them around from side to side, left to right, to there. There's our slope-intercept form, right? Now we have to get it into standard, which is now you would have to get rid of that fraction and multiply everything by what? 2, okay? So this is what you wanted to do. So if I can highlight this one. See, that's my result. But now I want to go back to my pen and I want to multiply everything by 2. Okay, so that way it'd be 2y equals negative 3x plus 20. And then the last step is to add 3x to both sides. So that way that's a 0 there. And now you have your 3x plus 2y equals, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is your standard form, okay? So what this is it's a transition, okay? How do you go from here to here to here? It's all math related. It's all in a simple step. You can do this, fantastic. That's the goal, okay? If you want to go, because I've seen it before, if you guys want to just continue to do one step at a time, all the way across. So this would be 5 over 4x, and then that would be what? 8 times 5 is 40, divided by 4 is a negative 10, because it's still a negative number. Okay? And then this one over here would be, if you want to go left all the way to get rid of the distribution, 5 over 2x. And then that's going to be what number? That's going to be a plus 10, right? Because 5 times 4 is 20 divided by 2. If you don't know, put it in a calculator. 5/4 times negative 8. Bam, enter. What is it? Woo, it should say negative 10. Okay? If you struggle with that part of it, don't let it hinder you. Now, you do this with everything the same way. We know we're going to be doing add 7 on this one, and then we're going to add 2 on this one. And what do we get? Y equals 5 over 4x minus 3. All right, and then this one would be y equals 5 over 2x plus 12. So there's our equations. Now, if you had a highlighter, you could highlight and say that's your slope intercept. And then you'd move on to the last piece of the puzzle, okay, which is this one here. I got to multiply everything by what number? 4. And then this one would be multiplying everything by a 2. Right? And so now that you set these up, okay, this is going to be a 4y equals. That would cancel that fraction out. That's your goal. Minus 12. This would be a 2y equals 5x plus 24. And now you do your very last step for everything. Move the 5x to the other side. And then same, it's the same thing over here. Move this 5x to this side. Okay. This is all about, I can't stress enough, making sure you guys can move things from one side of the equation to the other. If I asked you what the A, B, C values are, I'm pretty confident you guys could tell me A, B, C, -5, 2, and 24. Okay? And that's it. Okay? Don't forget when you do the distribution part, okay, that you multiply everything by the number. You just don't do one or two things. That's where some of you will get hung up this year. Okay? Some of you will figure out, okay, I'm stuck here. How do I go from this to a standard form? Get rid of the fraction. All right? There's a couple thought processes in math, and I realize you have English getting slammed down your throat. You got a foreign language getting slammed down your throat. You have science getting slammed down your throat. And then you come in here and you half remember everything, or maybe not even half. I'll go 1/10. Next week, after this quiz, we're going to take 2 weeks to do a giant review in here about all the equations that we've learned. The slope intercept, point slope form, standard form, okay, and the slope formula. We're going to pull all that together in a booklet that you guys will be able to use on the test. All right, but the key is that you guys have to understand, if you can do all of this work, then you will be successful as we continue to go forward. All right. If not, please do some more review work. Please do the worksheets as we go through and work on the homework, please. The homework for this lesson is only 10 questions. All right. It's the same question asked twice. So it's technically 5 questions. I just asked you 2 times each. All right. Any questions? Work on the Alex 4.1, 4.2. Remember, it's worth 30% of your grade. So homework is the same as a test. All right. So I do that with my financial algebra class too. I had one student, he got a 95 on the test. He's like, I got a 95 on the test. Why is my grade went down? I say, well, it's because you're not doing the assignments, which are the same for them. And I'm like, so your test score went up, but your homework assignment grade went down. So they evened out. Okay. Do both, ladies and gentlemen. Good luck.
Look at the